This guitar is my one and only Jazzmaster, at least now. Anytime I use it for a video, people ask me what's that guitar, where can they get one, and the thing is, I built it myself. Ever since I started playing guitar in like 2014, 2013 even, I've always liked Strats and Tellys a lot, but I never really paid attention to Jazzmasters. Well, that is, until Slipknot, one of my all-time favorite bands, dropped the music video for Unmentioned back in May 2019, and I saw Jim Root play a white double humbucker Jazzmaster in the video. By that time he had become one of my favorite guitarists, and later that weekend I did my very first Google search for cheap double humbucker Jazzmasters. A few months later, in July 2019, Jim also started teasing, well, what became the V4 Fender Jim Root Jazzmaster. My yearning for that guitar only got worse when Fender finally announced it at Winter NAMM 2020. A month later I also finally saw that guitar with my own eyes when I saw Slipknot live for the first time. And fun fact, that was the last show they did before COVID happened. Corey also got into an accident at that show. Then in April 2020 Fender released this video, which just made my craving for that guitar worse. It was now finally available for purchase, but to my disappointment I couldn't get it. It was well over €1,000 and I was like, what, 13 at that time, so I just couldn't afford it. Since then my dream of owning that guitar just slowly faded away, although I've got to mention a few extra things. I've always liked Jim's other Jazzmasters as well, the V4 is just my favorite. Especially the white one without fret markers as well as the sandblasted one are really cool in my opinion too. Also in August 2022 I finally got to play the damn guitar, the V4 model. It was right there in front of my very eyes at the Knotfest Museum, which I went to when I saw Slipknot for the second time when they did their first ever Knotfest Finland. And apart from Jim's Jazzmasters, I also really like the obvious baritone Jazzmaster that Tom DeLonge has. Blink-182 is one of my all-time favorite bands and Tom is one of my all-time favorite musicians. And speaking of them, I also really like the Jazzmasters that John Polin, aka Little Red Guitars 2, has built in the vein of Tom's guitars. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say Jazzmaster, but the point is, I really started to like them, and especially ones that have humbuckers and a hardtail bridge. And as I said, my dream of owning the V4 model basically faded away, but last summer it started to reignite actually. I had gotten back into guitar modding and building earlier that year, and while scrolling through Thomann I noticed that they had a Jazzmaster DIY kit that had a neck with white binding and those big block inlays. And the thing is, the white binding on the neck of the V4 was one of the main things that had kept me from building one myself before. You can't really fake binding with like paint or tape, and it's really hard to find Fender style necks with it. The block inlays could obviously be compensated with like inlay stickers or so, but to my luck the Harley Benton kit already had those. After I realized the neck was exactly what I needed, I started getting excited already, but then I ran into a different problem. The V4 doesn't have a pickguard, so how was I going to fill the cavities on the front of the body and route new ones on the back? My dreams were crushed and that small beam of hope that I had for a few minutes faded away once again. Then a few days later I saw this picture on Instagram. This is the Solicaster, which is basically a Tom DeLonge style Jazzmaster with David John Solly's own spin on it. All of a sudden things started to click in my head. It was almost like the V4 model, but it also had a pickguard. And what does that pickguard do? Hide the cavities behind it. I realized that this was now my chance to get, well, not the V4, but a mix of it and the Solicaster if only I could find some extra parts. I started searching everywhere from Thomann to Uraltone, and lo and behold, soon I had a list of parts that I needed in order to make the build happen. I would need just some golden hardware, 2 zebra humbuckers, some blank tortoiseshell pickguard material as well as the Harley Benton kit itself. And the best part was that everything combined cost under €250. I quickly started putting all the items into my carts until I noticed that the kit itself was out of stock. I couldn't believe it at first. Did I lose my only chance? Luckily, after the longest week of my life, it finally came back in stock. I had been eyeing it every day, and immediately when it was back in stock I placed my orders and started waiting for the parts to arrive. After almost 2 of the longest weeks of my life, I finally had everything set. Even though I had multiple other projects in progress at the same time, I immediately started working on this one as well. The first thing I did is I traced the outlines of my Jackson Adrian Smith SD-Access headstock onto the blank headstock of the new guitar. And fun fact, at this time that Jackson was getting turned into a metal version of a Tom DeLonge Strat. Then I also traced the outlines of the stock pickguard that came with the kit onto the new blank material I had. I thought about using the stock one, but Jazzmaster pickups are wider than humbuckers and I wasn't going to use the tone knob anyway, so they would have left unnecessary holes in the end result. Then I started sawing them with my scroll saw. I cut the outlines of the pickguard in a 45-degree angle and everything else I cut straight. The headstock turned out a little bulky, but as I was going to sand and file it down anyway, it didn't really bother me. And that's exactly what I did next, filing and sanding the pickguard and the headstock until I was happy with the end result. Then I filled the bridge stud holes with the biggest dowels I could find, as I was going to use a hardtail bridge instead of the tune-o-matic that came with the kit. The dowels were still not big enough, so I added some wood filler to the holes, which was like 10 years old by the way, and after it dried I sanded the bridge area level with some sandpaper. Then I drilled all the holes into the pickguard and made sure everything fit before painting, learning from my old mistakes, let's not get into that. And while I was at this stage I also had to drill some new holes for the pickup cavity so that the pickup screws could fit in properly. I also changed the nut, added some new tuners, and drew my own logo on the headstock, which actually turned out really great I think. And then one last thing before painting, I measured the exact spot for the bridge and drilled some new holes for it. This was supposed to be an easy task, but somehow, I don't know how, I managed to snap the drill bit while drilling the holes for the strings to go through. It got stuck so deep down in the wood that I couldn't get it out with anything, so the only option left was to drill into it from the back of the guitar. I would have drilled some small cavities for the ball ends of the strings anyway, but as I was basically blind guessing where I was at, I ended up drilling out a lot more than I would have wanted to. I tried to make it more symmetrical, but it's still kinda ugly, but luckily it's just on the back. But then after that whole chaos was over, I finally got to start painting. I started off by wiping the whole body clean with some turpentine, and after it was dry I started spraying the primer. I used just some cheap spray paint from the local hardware store, which actually worked super well. I ran into a new problem at this stage though, as I was so excited that I sprayed too much of the primer and it started oozing down the body. It's an amateur mistake, yeah I know that, but that's what I am. Luckily I was able to sand it even, and I would have sanded it anyway, so no harm done there. Then I started spraying the white and it actually turned out just like how I wanted it to. After it was dry again, I didn't bother sanding or polishing it, nor did I use any lacquer on it, and that's just because I really wanted to start showing its age as time goes on. Then I started working on the electronics. I ended up doing a totally new circuit from spare parts I had lying around, as the kit came stock with 250k mini pots, which aren't ideal for humbuckers. I did use the stock output jack, so that is still chrome, but no one's gonna see it from under the cable anyway, so I don't really care. Soldering has absolutely never been my strength, but I'm genuinely proud of how things turned out this time. As I said, I made the new circuit completely by myself, and at the start of last summer I basically knew nothing about how guitar electronics work. The end result was a big win for me personally, and even though the wires are now under the pickguard, the whole circuit looked quite nice when I put it in there. After I made sure that it worked, it was finally time to put the hardware on. I set it up for drop B with a very odd and light custom string set, and it was at this point that I noticed that the neck was sitting too high for the new bridge I had installed. I did what I probably shouldn't have done and sanded the back of the neck down a little bit to make it sit at a lower height. And while I was doing this in the garage, I somehow managed to drop one of the bridge shadow screws straight into a drain and it was never to be seen again. I still have no clue where I can find a replacement for it, as the bridge was not made by any big brand, so I had to stick in a Floyd Rose saddle block to keep it in place. It actually works just fine, but I obviously can't move it up or down now, which honestly kind of sucks. But hey, at least it holds the saddle in place. After that whole operation was carried out unsuccessfully, I leveled and ground the frets. The guitar honestly sounds kind of dead, unfortunately, no matter what strings I put on it, and I thought I could fix it by working on the frets, but it basically makes no difference. At least there isn't any fret buzz now. This is an annoying problem I have with some of my other guitars too, so it seems I'm yet to find a solution to it. Nonetheless, I put the strings back on after that, and this is the end result, my custom Jazzmaster. Or Jaguar, I don't still know what the JA stands for. The pickups honestly don't really fit my style sound-wise, but the looks are absolutely there, and I've received so many compliments from other guitar players on this guitar. It's become one of the signature guitars of my channel, if you will, and it's definitely not going anywhere. I've used it on some original music, a bunch of Slipknot covers, and even completed my Jim Root costume earlier this year when me and my bros participated in Bank Cut It, which is a whole nother story. This guitar has even made its way into multiple of my most viewed videos ever, which is crazy. Wait! It's me from the future now. I kinda skipped over the details of what I was saying, so let's do that now. The most remarkable song I played this guitar on is Your Shadow Dreams, which I released on my 2024 compilation EP titled Your Shadow Isn't Everything. Mitä ei se niin oo? Your shadow isn't everything. All that isn't everything, that's the name of the EP. Your Shadow Dreams was a huge step forwards for me because that was the first song I ever sang on. I had wanted to sing on my original music for years by this point, but I had never had the guts to do it. In all honesty, I was just too afraid of what people would say, and I thought my voice was too low pitched for rock and metal. So yeah, it did take me, 18 years to gather up the courage to do it, but in the end I'm so glad I did it. Your Shadow Dreams is by no means the most groundbreaking song I've done, but it's a sign of what's to come in the future. Everything's just gonna get turned up to 10, I guess. Or 11. And because you hear this guitar on that song, it holds really special memories to me. Regarding Penkkarit, it's an old Finnish tradition where general upper secondary school seniors get to celebrate their last day of school. The seniors get to dress up in costumes, poke fun at the younger students and throw them candy. I dressed up as Jim Root, and as I said, this guitar completed my costume. I had waited years to participate in the tradition, and it honestly turned out to be one of the best days of my life. I had even planned out my costume in middle school, which was like, what, 5-6 years prior? This guitar also caught the attention of one of my favorite teachers, a history teacher who also plays guitar, and I even got it on video when he jokingly appeared behind my back and started detuning this thing. This guitar also made it to the local newspaper. That's cool, I suppose. And finally, regarding the viral videos, this guitar was featured on my most viewed YouTube video ever, a Nirvana related meme which also went viral on TikTok. That video has almost 500,000 views on YouTube and almost 300,000 views on TikTok. This guitar was also featured in my second most viewed TikTok ever, which was another Nirvana related meme. Now that video has almost 1.5 million views on TikTok, which is absolutely insane. It's been watched for over 5,000 hours, which is again absolutely insane. I had made a meme implying that it was actually Chris who made the weird bell-like ringing sounds at the start of You Know You're Right, and for some reason it angered a bunch of Nirvana fans. The video went viral thanks to their angry comments, and I just kept getting new followers, so I figured I would try to rage bait those same people again. I made a factually wrong meme on purpose, hoping that it would get those angry comments once again and it would go viral, and that's exactly what happened. The comment section started flooding immediately, and yeah, I don't want to surround myself with hate comments, but just from that video I got almost 1,000 new followers, so I'd say it did the trick. That video also got reposted by some Nirvana fan account on Instagram, and last time I checked it had like, what, 200,000-300,000 views. I don't think I'm gonna do a factually wrong video on purpose again, but that was a fun test, I can't lie. This guitar was also in my biggest video project of this year, when I wrote a brand new Slipknot song by myself. I spent 3 months working on it and I tried to pull off every trick in the book, but unfortunately it didn't really take off. But maybe someday it will, a man can hope. I've tried to send it all over the world, and it did get me to the biggest music magazine in Finland, Soundi, as well as Kaostine, but right now I think it's at like 3,000 views, so nothing's really happened yet. So yeah, this guitar has been in a lot of songs and videos, and a lot of people have seen it. But that's all, let's get back to whatever I was saying. And now that it's almost a year old, it's starting to get some wear and tear, which is so cool too in my opinion. That's exactly what I wanted from it. I might change some parts on it someday, like the tuners or the pickups, but right now it does its job just fine. This guitar seems to be loved especially by Nirvana fans, so I'm thinking maybe the pickups would fit that style better. The pickups clean up really well with just a volume knob, which is a good sign, so I think I'm gonna tune this up to like D or E standard for some Nirvana tones. There's nothing wrong with the pickups, I think they're just too low output for Slipknot style high gain tones. And who knows, maybe someday I'll buy the Jim Root Demonym set and put them into this guitar. Oh, and fun fact, I made a TikTok slideshow on the making of this guitar last year, and right now it has over 45,000 views, and even the official Harley Benton account commented on it, which is so cool in my opinion. And speaking of Harley Benton again, this guitar is my entry number 1 for their DIY kit challenge this year. You just have to show how you build one of their kits and do a sound check on the end result, which we'll hear on this guitar soon. And let's also quickly address the elephant in the room. Yes, it's me talking now finally. The last time I did this was in 2019 I believe, and it went down so bad that I swear I'm never gonna do it again. But this year I've started doing videos that require narration, which I've done by writing long scripts by myself and then turning them into speech with AI. But that seems to bug a lot of viewers, and you know, let's just give the people what they want. I don't know why it's such a big deal. I mean, the AI is literally just reading what I wrote by myself. But I don't want to let my viewers down, so let's just move on to this and I'll start speaking myself. I hope you get clear of what I'm saying. I mean, I definitely have an accent, but people keep telling me that even that is better than the AI voice, so, you know. I really hope that people will someday watch these videos because they want to see what I'm up to, and maybe this is the path I need to take in order to get there. And yeah, I do agree with the fact that it's nicer to hear a real person though. The AI pronounces guitar model names especially really weird, so maybe it's better this way. But that's all I had to say. Thanks so much for sticking around this far, and let's now finally hear how this guitar sounds like. Wait, it's me once again. This song you're about to hear has not been released yet. It's something new I've been working on, and right now it doesn't have vocals, but in the future it definitely will. It's basically a continuation, if that's a word, of Your Shadow Dreams, which I was talking about earlier, and a sign of what's to come as well. Almost everything you're about to hear and see was recorded live by me, and the end result was also mixed and mastered by me. I hope you'll dig it.